All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about a huge, hidden bug in the way a lot of really smart people think. It's this belief that if you just do great work, the world will automatically notice. Spoilers, it won't. This is what we call the invisible genius delusion, and honestly, it could be the one thing that's keeping you from reaching that next level. I want you to really think about this for a second. Are you pouring every ounce of your talent and energy into creating something absolutely incredible, but no one knows you're doing it? Are you basically building a stunning, high-res empire inside a pitch-black room? If that hits a little too close to home, well, you're definitely not alone. But you are playing on hard mode. And this right here is the brutal truth of the whole thing. You can have it all figured out, the best strategy, the perfect system, your biology dialed in. But if the market, if the people who need to see you can't find you, it all adds up to a big fat zero. It's not an opinion, it's just math.
So, let's put a name to this problem. The invisible genius delusion. The best way to think about it is like a software bug, but it's running in your mental operating system, your neural OS. It's this old, outdated piece of code that causes incredibly smart, capable people to make a massive strategic mistake.
So what is it exactly? It's this kind of arrogant idea that just doing good work is enough, that the work itself will do all the marketing for you. And if you think in systems, which you should, this is a total catastrophic failure. You see, a healthy system doesn't just produce a quality output, it also has a distribution channel to make sure that output gets seen and valued. Without that channel, the whole system just breaks down.
This is exactly why that old advice to just work in silence is so dangerous now. The game has completely changed. In the world we live in, especially looking ahead, attention is the new oil. It's the meta commodity. It's the thing you use to get all the other things, the capital, the talent, the opportunities. If you don't have attention, you have zero leverage, period.
And the price you pay for this delusion, for this silence, is incredibly high. It really leads to two massive problems. The first is something we call signal entropy, and the second is a state of strategic isolation. And trust me, these aren't just fancy words. They have very real, very painful consequences for your impact on the world.
Okay, so what in the world is signal entropy? Imagine you've created something brilliant, a signal, but you release it into the chaos of the internet, where there are a billion other signals screaming for attention. Signal entropy is when your signal is so quiet, so lost, that it just blends into the background noise. It doesn't matter how great it is, if no one can distinguish it from the static, you're effectively invisible. So this all brings you to a pretty critical fork in the road. On one side, you've got the lurker. This person is brilliant. They consume all the best information, they have this amazing vision, but it's all running on a private server in their head. They're a well-hidden asset. On the other side, you have the architect. They don't just consume, they produce, they build. They're actively architecting their signal for the world to see. You have to ask yourself, which one are you right now?
Because if you're stuck in that lurker trap, this quote is your reality. All of your brilliance, all of your amazing ideas, they're like a giant tree falling in a completely empty forest. It makes a sound, sure, but if no one's there to hear it, did it really make an impact?
Okay, so we've laid out the problem. It's a big one. But the good news is, there's a solution. It all starts with a huge shift in how you think. You have to stop searching and hunting for opportunities and start architecting a system that brings them directly to you. And we do that with something called the authority equation.
Now, don't get spooked by the formula. It's actually really simple. Your authority magnitude, let's call it A, is basically your unique insight multiplied by how often you share it, all divided by how much noise is in your market and how hard it is for people to find your stuff. The main point here is that authority isn't some magic vibe you're born with. It's something you can engineer. It's a multiplier for your time and your genius. And here is the goal. This is the magic number. You want to get your authority magnitude score above 10. Because once you cross that line, the entire game flips on its head. You stop chasing people down, you stop hunting. Instead, opportunities, clients, and collaborations start showing up in your inbox. You become a magnet.
So the big question is, how do we get that score above 10? Well, you need a new operating system, a total upgrade. We call it the Influence Protocol. Think of it as the step-by-step installation guide for building that machine that brings opportunities to you.
And the protocol is actually pretty straightforward. It's got 3 core steps. First, the signal audit. This is where you get brutally honest and define the one single unique insight you have that the market is desperately missing. Second, permissionless distribution. This one's my favorite. It means you stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for someone to give you a stage. You build your own stage, and you broadcast your logic every single day. And third, value injection scaling. This means that every single thing you put out into the world isn't just content, it's a tool. It has to solve a real, systemic problem for your audience.
All right, let's bring it all home. This whole thing leads to one final, absolutely critical shift in your identity. You're not just a thinker. You're not just a creator. You are an architect. And it is time to stop whispering your ideas and start designing and broadcasting your signal with real intention.
So the very first thing you need to do is get the word posting out of your vocabulary. Posting is random. It's tactical. Architecting is deliberate. Every single thing you put out is a brick, carefully placed in the grand structure of your influence.
Next, your goal is not to entertain people, it's to provide systemic utility. You're not trying to get a cheap laugh or a quick like. You're creating assets, tools, and frameworks that people can actually use to solve their problems and improve their own systems. And never forget this. The very fact that you're engaging with these ideas means you have a high bandwidth mind. You have the ability to think in systems, to see the bigger picture. That is an incredibly valuable signal. Don't you dare keep it locked away.
So, at the end of the day, it all boils down to this one question. You have the framework, you know the protocol. The only thing left to ask is your signal live? Are you out there, broadcasting? Or are you still in that dark room, building your beautiful, invisible empire? The choice, as always, is yours.
Okay, so you've put in the work. You've honed your skills, you've optimized everything. But what if, in today's world, all that hard-earned brilliance is, well, completely invisible? We're going to dive into a really critical idea today. If the world can't see you, if it can't find you, then your value is effectively zero. Let's talk about how to stop being the smartest person no one's ever heard of and start building the signal your work actually deserves.
You know the old advice, right? We've all heard it. Put your head down, do great work, and success will find you. This whole idea of working in silence is treated like a badge of honor, especially for high performers. It's this belief that quality work is its own best advertisement.
But here's the thing. What if that advice is totally outdated? What if it's not just wrong, but a catastrophic bug in your personal operating system? In a world that runs on attention, your silence isn't humility anymore. It might just be a massive, massive strategic mistake. And this gets a name. Our source material calls it the invisible genius delusion, and that's the bug we're here to fix today. It's that quiet, almost subconscious belief that your genius will just be discovered, that someone's going to stumble across your brilliance without you having to do a thing. So what's the core problem here? It's a concept called signal entropy. Think about it from a systems perspective. If your amazing output, your brilliant ideas, can't be told apart from all the other random noise on the internet, then you're invisible. Your genius just gets lost in the static. And this leads directly to what's called the lurker trap, which is where so many smart people get stuck. On the left, you've got the lurker. They're constantly taking in amazing information, but they never produce any public proof of their own unique thinking. The goal is to get to the right side of this screen, to become a producer, someone who intentionally designs and architects a clear signal. And the result of being stuck in that lurker trap? It's what you see right here, strategic isolation. You basically become an island, and that puts a hard ceiling on your potential because you're not attracting those high-resolution nodes, the sharp, connected people you need to build a truly global network.
And the cost of staying silent? Oh, it is huge. The source material uses some absolutely brilliant metaphors to show just how inefficient this whole invisible approach really is.
Just think about this for a second. It's like you have this incredible, world-changing vision, but you're running it on a private server that nobody could log into. You're trying to build an empire, but you're doing it in a secret, locked room. It's the perfect way to see how absurd it is.
So, the most important takeaway here is that this is not about being humble. We need to completely reframe that idea. This is a failure of systems thinking. It's just plain inefficient. You're leaving the most powerful tools in the modern world on the table.
And why does this matter so much? Because digital authority is a completely unique kind of asset. I mean, look at this. It literally grows while you're sleeping. It works everywhere, across every border. And without it, your entire vision, your empire, it all just remains a secret.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, we've seen how costly it is. Now for the fun part, the fix. It's time to stop hiding and start building a signal. And we do that by installing a whole new mental model, the Global Influence Operating System.
Now, the core idea here is that authority is not about ego. It's about leverage. It's just smart math. Your authority acts as a powerful multiplier.
It takes all your effort, all your time, and it creates this massively outsized result, making every single thing you do way more impactful.
So how do we actually quantify this? Well, believe it or not, there's a formula for it. A clear, logical way to understand how influence is really built. Let's break down the authority equation. First up, the top part of the fraction is your unique insight. This is your secret sauce. What's the one thing you see, the one problem you can solve that nobody else can? This is the core substance of your signal. Then, we multiply that insight by distribution frequency. See, it's not enough to just have a brilliant idea locked away in your head. You have to share it, consistently. How often are you actually putting your logic out there for the world to see? Okay, now for the bottom of the equation. These are the two things that kill your signal. First, you've got noise. That's all the other chatter on the internet you have to punch through. And then you've got friction. That's anything that makes it hard for people to find your ideas or understand them. Your mission is to crush both of these. So when you put it all together, you get the authority equation. Your authority is simply your unique insight, times how often you share it, all divided by the noise and friction you're up against. It's a super simple but incredibly powerful blueprint for building influence. And this formula gives us a real, tangible target. The goal is to get your authority score above 10. Because once you cross that line, the entire game flips. You stop chasing opportunities and you start designing a system where opportunities come directly to you. All right, so the theory is cool, but how do you actually do this? Let's get practical. Let's get to the execution. The source gives us a really clear 3-step plan to get this new OS up and running.
Okay, here's the protocol. Step 1, the signal audit. This is where you get brutally honest and nail down that one unique insight you have that the market is missing. Step 2, permissionless distribution. You have to stop waiting for permission. Use the tools that are available to everyone and just broadcast your logic every single day. And finally, step 3, value injection scaling. This is crucial. It means everything you create has to actually solve a problem. You have to shift from just making entertaining content to providing real, tangible utility. You know, the message here is so powerful. If you're one of those people who thinks deeply, who sees things others miss, you have what's called a high bandwidth mind. The world needs what you have to say. It is time to stop whispering.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to really think about. After everything we've talked about today, you've got to ask yourself, is your brilliance just a tree falling in an empty forest? It's time to make sure the world can hear it. All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to decode a really powerful system for taking all that expertise you have locked away and turning it into actual real-world influence. It's a framework called the Global Influence Operating System, and it's all about architecting your digital authority. So, let's dive in. But first, let me ask you a question, and I want you to be really honest with yourself. Is your brilliance a secret? I mean, you could have the best strategies, the best systems, the most high-resolution mind, but if nobody can find you, if the market doesn't know you exist, what is your value, really? So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start by tackling a huge bug in your thinking, the invisible genius delusion. Then we'll look at the massive cost of staying silent. After that, we'll get into the physics of influence with the authority magnitude equation. Then we'll shift to a new mode of operating called architecting inbound. And finally, we'll install the actual 3-step protocol to make it all happen. Okay, first things first. We have to address the single most common and honestly catastrophic mindset flaw that holds back so many high performers. It's a fundamental bug in your neural OS, and it's called the invisible genius delusion.
You know, so many of us were taught to believe this. Just do good work, and the rewards will come. That your work is its own marketing. But in the world we live in now, that's just not true. It's a dangerous fantasy. The reality, as you can see right here, is brutally simple. If the market cannot find you, your value is, for all practical purposes, mathematically zero. So what's the technical term for this problem? Well, in systems thinking, we call it signal entropy. It basically means that your signal, your unique insight, your value, is so weak or infrequent that it just dissolves into the background noise of the internet. You blend in. You become completely invisible. So what's the real cost of being invisible? What's the price you pay for this silence? Well, think of it like this. You're trying to run a massive global vision, but you're running it on a tiny private server that's offline. Nobody can access it. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? All that intricate work, all the brilliant connections you're making in your head, you're building this incredible high-resolution empire, but you're doing it in a pitch-black room where no one can see it. That's the devastating cost of silence.
And this leads to a really dangerous state called strategic isolation. See, this isn't just about feeling lonely or unknown. No, it's a strategic problem. Your own potential, your own high-performance psychology literally hits a hard ceiling because you're not sending out a signal strong enough to attract the other high-resolution people you need in your network to grow.
Look, it's so easy to reframe this flaw as a virtue. We tell ourselves, oh, I'm just being humble, or I'm just putting my head down and doing the work. But we need to call it what it is. It's not humility. It's a strategic error. You're being systematically inefficient.
Okay, so that's the problem, and it's a big one. So what's the fix? The solution starts when we understand the authority-magnitude equation, what you could call the fundamental physics of how influence actually works. And the core principle you have to grasp is right here. Authority isn't about ego. It's not about being famous. In a systems thinking framework, authority is a multiplier for your single most precious, non-renewable asset, your time.
And here it is, the equation itself. Your authority magnitude, let's call it A, is calculated like this. It's your unique insight multiplied by your distribution frequency, all divided by noise multiplied by friction. It's a simple formula, but it governs everything. You want to maximize the top, and you want to crush the bottom to zero.
Let's make this super practical. To get your authority magnitude up, you need to crank the dials on top. Your unique insight isn't just generic commentary. It's your specific logic that no one else has. And distribution frequency means you're broadcasting that logic consistently, maybe even daily, not just when you feel like it. Then you have to be absolutely ruthless about minimizing the bottom. Noise is all the irrelevant stuff you put out. And friction? That's how hard you make it for people to get to your best ideas. Is it buried in a clunky website? Is it behind a paywall? High signal, high frequency, low noise, low friction? That's the game.
So what happens when you get this equation right? What's the payoff? Well, your entire operational strategy flips. You stop searching for opportunities, and you start architecting a system that attracts them to you automatically. And listen, this isn't just some vague, abstract idea. There's a real quantitative target here. The goal is to get your authority magnitude, that A value from our equation, to be greater than 10. That is the tipping point. That's when the magic starts to happen. And this is what that shift feels like. On the left, you're in searching mode. You're constantly hunting, networking, applying, burning energy to find your next move. But on the right, you've achieved architecting inbound. You've built an asset, a system that works for you 24/7, pulling in the right opportunities while you're working, sleeping, whatever.
This might be the most important mindset shift of all. It's time to completely forget about vanity metrics. You don't need more followers. That's the old model. What you need to build is systemic gravity, a force, an attractive pull so strong that the right people, the 1% of the 1%, are inevitably drawn into your orbit.
All right, so how do we actually do this? How do we build that gravity? Let's get to the practical, actionable part. It's a three-step system called the influence protocol. The protocol is a clear, repeatable sequence. It's simple. 1. Execute the signal audit. 2. Apply permissionless distribution. And 3. Perform value injection scaling. Let's break down exactly what that means. Okay, step 1. Signal audit. Go ahead, Google your name right now. What comes up? If it's messy, irrelevant, or worse, nothing at all, you've found a leak. Your job is to define your one core unique insight. Step 2. Permissionless distribution. This means you stop waiting for permission. You broadcast your logic, your insight, every single day, 365 days a year. And step 3, value injection scaling. This is key. Every single thing you create shouldn't just be content. It should be a direct solution to a real, systemic problem your audience faces.
So if you take one thing away, let it be this. It's a profound shift in mindset. You have to stop just posting content randomly into the void. You have to start architecting an intentional system. Every piece of content you create is your proof of work. It acts as a 24/7 filter, repelling the wrong people and attracting the right ones. One is chaos, the other is strategy.
And let's end with this. It's really a call to action. If you're listening to this, you likely possess a high bandwidth mind. You see patterns others don't. You have the insight. And now you have the system. So the only question left is, isn't it time to stop whispering? Okay, have you ever had that feeling, you've got this game-changing idea, a truly brilliant insight, but it feels like you're just shouting into an empty room? You're definitely not alone. The world is just full of invisible geniuses. So in this explainer, we are going to dismantle that nasty bug in your system that's keeping you hidden, and we're going to install a brand new protocol for influence. Let's get right into decoding the one error that's keeping you on the sidelines. Just take a second and let that sink in. It's brutal, but it's true. All the hard work, the late nights, the incredible insights, it all just rounds down to zero if no one can find you. In today's world, being obscure isn't some humble choice, it's a massive, catastrophic liability.
So what's the real source of this invisibility anyway? Well, it's a fundamental bug in our thinking. It's a delusion that so many of us have been taught to see as a virtue. Let's track this bug down, identify it, and see exactly why it's so destructive.
And here it is, the invisible genius bug. It's that quiet, almost noble-sounding belief that if you just put your head down and do great work, the world will, just magically notice someday. But when you look at it from a systems thinking perspective, this isn't humility, it's a critical failure. It's like building the most powerful engine in the world, but completely forgetting to connect it to the wheels. This right here, this is the perfect picture of what that looks like in practice. You can be building the most detailed, complex, high-resolution empire imaginable, but if you're building it in a dark room, it might as well not even exist. That is the real consequence of the invisible genius bug. You have to see this fundamental shift we're living through. The old belief was work in silence, let your work speak for itself. But the new reality, the new physics of influence, says that attention is the ultimate currency now. Your work can't just speak anymore. You have to get in there and architect the signal.
Okay, so if working in silence is a bug, what's the actual cost? And I gotta tell you, it's way more than just a few missed opportunities. It's a systemic drain on your entire potential. Let's actually calculate the real price of staying invisible. So the core problem has a name, signal entropy. Think of it like this. The internet is just this huge, roaring ocean of noise. If the signal you're putting out, your ideas, your value, your genius, is just a tiny little ripple, it gets swallowed up instantly. When your signal has no distinction, no clarity, your entire system, it's like it doesn't even exist.
So you've got to ask yourself, and be honest, do you have this massive, world-changing vision, but you're basically running it on a private server? Keeping your operating system completely disconnected from the global network where it could actually have an impact? You see, this leads to three really dangerous states. First, you fall into what's called the lurker trap. You're consuming all this world-class information, but you're producing zero evidence of your own logic. That leads directly to strategic isolation, where the partners and collaborators you need can't even find you. And the result? It's just systemically inefficient. Your brilliance becomes this little secret you keep instead of the powerful strategy it's supposed to be.
Okay, we've diagnosed the problem. We know the cost. Now for the good part, the solution. This is about a complete and total paradigm shift. We are moving away from passive hope and right into the active, intentional process of architecting your authority. Welcome to the new physics of influence.
And listen, this isn't magic, it's math. It's a system that's defined by a pretty clear formula. Let's break it down. Your authority, your A, is your unique insight, that's your signal, multiplied by your distribution frequency, that's your amplifier. Then you divide all of that by the things working against you, the external noise and your own internal friction. See, influence isn't some random accident, it's a measurable output that you can actually engineer.
Now, the goal of that whole formula is to get your authority score, your A value, above 10. According to the source, this number, 10, is the magic tipping point. It's where the entire dynamic of your professional life just flips on its head.
And what does that flip actually look like? It looks like this. You stop chasing clients. You stop hunting for jobs, for connections. Instead, you architect a system where they all come to you. High-level opportunities, the kind of people you need in your network, they start seeking you out. That is the power of a high authority score.
So the big question is, how do we build that authority score? The answer is the influence protocol. It's a clear 3-step blueprint for firing up your own personal influence system.
But first, we need a really critical mindset shift. This protocol is not about just randomly posting on social media, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. No, every single action has to be intentional. You're an architect, carefully designing and building a structure of influence. And here are the 3 core steps. Step 1, execute the signal audit. And I mean it right now. Google yourself. Is the result just noise or worse, nothing? Your first job is to lock down your core, unique insight. Step 2, permissionless distribution. Stop waiting for gatekeepers to pick you. Use the media leverage you have to broadcast your logic consistently. And finally, step 3, value injection scaling. Stop creating disposable content. Start architecting solutions to systemic problems for the very specific, high-level minds you want to attract. This slide just contrasts the old and new models perfectly. The goal isn't entertainment for the masses anymore. It's systemic utility for a select few. You are not chasing vanity metrics like likes. You are solving complex problems to attract the top 1% of the 1%. Your content stops being disposable fluff and becomes a real asset that actually compounds over time.
All right, we've identified the bug, we've calculated the cost, and we've walked through the protocol. Now it's time to activate your own global influence operating system. It's time to go from a whisper to a clear, powerful signal.
You know, the reason this whole protocol probably resonates with you is actually pretty simple. You operate on a different frequency. You possess a high bandwidth mind, and frankly, that comes with a certain responsibility.
You have a responsibility to get your logic out there, to broadcast your signal. That whole invisible genius approach, it's just not an option anymore. The world needs to hear what you have to say. It is time to stop whispering.
You now have the blueprint. You get the system, you understand the protocol, and you've got the mindset. The foundation has been laid. All that's left is for you to flip the switch. The signal is ready to go live.
So, I'll just leave you with this one question. Right now, your brilliance might be that tree falling in an empty forest. A powerful event for sure, but with no one there to witness it. You now have the tools to populate that forest. The only question left is this: how will you make them listen?